Hey, it's Professor Davis. Here's your topics checklist for section 6.3, 6.4, and 6.5. This group of sections continue our discussion of the normal distribution, and so this is where we really start to compute with it. So for a given mean, let's look at what we want to do here. For a given mean and standard deviation, be able to compute probabilities for given normal random variable values of x. That involves first writing a probability expression, in other words, what we're trying to find in terms of the random variable x, rewriting that as a z-score using the given mean and standard deviation using our z-score formula, and then using table A2 that's in the appendix that you'll find in the ebook section to compute the probability. And so make sure you go through that process to find those probabilities. And then the challenging ones, I guess, in this section are the ones where we kind of do that process backwards, so to speak. We're given a probability or a percentage or a portion, and then go backwards. We would know the mean and standard deviation, but find the x value that would serve as the cutoff for that given probability. So make sure you take a look at the examples associated with that process. And then in section 6.4, well, that's a reading only section, somewhat of a concept section. So we want to be able to know the definition of a sampling distribution and of a sample statistic. And make sure you look at the notation for sampling distributions, and also a new parameter and statistic we're going to look at are with proportions. So make sure you look over the notation for a sample proportion and its corresponding notation for a population proportion. So the main thing in that section is to get familiar with the standard deviation for sampling distribution, and to know that the mean of a population is also the same as the mean of its corresponding sampling distribution. Then in section 6.5 is really certainly one of the most important sections in all of the course here on the central limit theorem. And so you make sure you read over that theorem. That's on ebook page 288, and the applications of that are on page 290. In other words, we see how we compute a z-score using the central limit theorem. In other words, to find the mean and standard deviation of a sampling distribution. And the key in this section is to be able to solve applications involving sampling distributions. Very much the same process as we did in the previous section. The only difference now we have a sample, and we're computing the probability of a mean involving that sample size. So make sure you look over examples 2 and 4 to help you with that. And so for homework this week, starting on page 272 in your ebook, problems 5 through 25 odd. And remember, section 6.4 is reading only, so read over that. Section 6.5, page 279, problems 5 through 15 odd. And if you're at this section, you're probably ready to take test 2. So I just wanted to give you a couple reminders. Make sure you first look over the study guide, look over the questions that will be on the test, and make sure you've done the practice exercise sets that are associated with each of those test topics. And then take the sample test, closed book, because that's the way the real test is. So don't have your notes open when you're taking the sample test. That way you can maximize your score for test 2. So there is your topics checklist for sections 6.3, 6.4, and 6.5.